If you've been watching Noisegate for a while, you'll know that we are fans of Blackstar amps. And Blackstar have just released this new series that they're calling the TV-10 series. And so they've got the TV-10A and now the TV-10B. And these are basically 10-watt tube amps, and they have different valves in them and have slightly different characters. So the TV-A came out a little while ago, and it's definitely in the Fender, blackface and American style clean, and has 6L6 tubes in it. This new Blackstar TV-10B is an EL34 amp, which actually gives a surprisingly good clean sound, but is definitely at home with the more kind of overdriven and rock tones. So let's have a quick listen to some of these. So as you can hear, that kind of bright EL34, crunchy, it's undeniably Marshall territory. But this amp really surprised me with how versatile it was with its range of tones. So as a quick kind of overview, we have got a very simple control layout on the top here with a gain and a boost switch, and my boost was engaged just then. We have a tone control, so simple darker through to brighter, a reverb level, and a master level. So someone like me, I prefer really simple controls on my amps because there's so many variances sometimes that you just want a simple way to get a good tone. So this ticked that box for me initially. So if I turn the boost off, turn the gain down, and I'm gonna keep the tone at about 12 o'clock, and I'm gonna turn the master up, I'm greeted with a very nice full-bodied clean tone. And whilst it is a digital reverb, it's a very nice sounding digital reverb. So let's push that a little bit further. I'm at about 9 o'clock now. Which is a really very, very nice addition on a small amp like this, because of course an amp like this is perfect for that small grab and go type gig, or at least that's what they're mostly aimed at. But my argument on these is that more often than not, we are being told on stage to be quieter and quieter. And we as guitarists want to be able to turn our tube amps up and get the great tone of the tubes really working, but without being at a volume that our sound engineers are going to be hating us. This is where 10-watt amps are amazing, because with a 12-inch speaker, you get all of that low end of a much higher powered amp through that speaker, but it is able to be turned up to a level where it feels like the tubes are working and thus creating great tone without being extremely loud. In the room here now, we're about halfway up, and it sounds really, really good without being kind of, deafening levels. And if you're practicing at home, you want great tone, you want something that sounds really good at low levels. But it still has quite a range. If I go up to, let's say I'm going to about 1 o'clock on the master, and my gain is at about 11 o'clock now. Now, it's definitely beginning to work and it's beginning to get a bit loud, but it's definitely not too loud for home. Depends who you live with, I suppose. But for a gig, that sounds amazing. And you put a mic on the front of that and you put that through your foldbacks or through your in-ears, and you're gonna get an amazing tone and keep your sound people on side, which is, of course, they're the ones who are gonna ultimately make us sound good, so we don't wanna piss them off. In here, we've also got this boost and this gain. So let's back the master off and turn the gain back up. And like I said, we get kind of really into Marshall territory. As you can see, of course, we're miking this cab today with a 121 style microphone. This also does have a direct out for being able to be plugged directly into your door or into a desk as well. But we thought it might be cool to actually mic it up today. So it sounds massive, but it's a really small amp. This is the secret to huge sounds. Just ask Jimmy Page. Those enormous like Led Zeppelin guitar tones come from not a 4x12 Marshall stack, but in fact from a small amp turned up and really working. That's where this amp really comes into its own. So I'm going to engage the boost now, which is foot switchable as well. So you've got a foot switch for boost and reverb on this. So that huge sound is just coming from this tiny little 10-watt amp. A grab-and-go amp is perfect for small gigs and even for bigger gigs where you put a mic on the front of it. But rehearsals, jams, practicing at home, you know, you want to get great tone as wherever you are playing, and having a small, low wattage amp like this that doesn't cave in. Like, I don't feel that when I'm playing with a louder, clean sound that it's really kind of caving in like some lower wattage amps do. It sounds really good all the way through its range, and I think that that is something that is really difficult to achieve at home, especially with a really big, like 100-watt amp is always going to sound crap when it's just turned up and the tubes aren't really working. Whereas 10 watts, turn that up to 3/4 of the way and the tubes are going, it sounds great. The question is, of course, would something like this be loud enough to gig with? If you were playing with a really loud drummer and you had no help from a PA, this may struggle, although it may actually get there. It depends on the size of the room. But as a standard kind of club gig, it might feel like you are struggling a little bit. Having said that though, virtually no gigs these days are like that. Almost every gig that you would do would have a mic on the guitar amp. So of course you're going to be able to use the PA and fold back to be able to hear yourselves. And like I say, keeping your sound people happy who are ultimately making you sound good or bad to your audience is what we want to do. So having a quiet amp on stage is always going to make their job easier, and they're going to love you for that. So the TV-10A is kind of that Fender, more clean kind of sound. This new TV-10B is definitely square in that kind of Marshall territory and really does that kind of British rock thing extremely well. The other great thing about a 10-watt amp is you can take two of them and you can run in stereo without feeling like you're dragging two enormous amps. So in my head, when I see an amp this size and think, one of them is just not quite loud enough, two of them would sound amazing. So that's another great thing about smaller amps too, is that you can be a bit more ridiculous and carry two of them and run in stereo on stage, as I like to do. But the Blackstar stuff that they've been putting out is consistently good. The features on this make it decidedly modern, such as the cab sim and headphone speaker simulated output, as well as, you know, being a all tube amp, you know, having the sound of an amp in the room. As much as digital is awesome and can get some incredible tones, we guitarists still love having the sound of an amp in the room. And so having a small amp that has all of those options is awesome. Also, having reverb in a small combo like this is really useful, especially if you just want one quick amp that you can take to the gig on its own. And you know, you could do the whole gig with just this little amp, I think, and that's a great addition to a small amp like this. As you've heard throughout the video, there's a huge range of tones in this, and like I said, I was kind of surprised by how great the clean sound was. I'm not sure why I was so surprised, but as soon as I saw, you know, EL34, my head instantly went to, this is a overdrive Marshall kind of sound, and it does that extremely well. But the versatility of this new Blackstar TV-10B has really made it a winner for me. I'm a big fan. Go and check out the Blackstar TV series at a dealer near you. And as always, thanks for watching Noisegate.